Late in the NBA with hopefully some more edges to unearth. Yesterday, we had Trae Young carrying us to a lot of glory here and Davion Mitchell not fully disappointing. See what we can do in this one, of course. Let's get it going game by game here to start with our simplified projections. Of course, my projections, Stokastic projections as of right now, 4 p.m. on the East Coast. Sure, it's going to move around, of course. I'll be doing the deeper dive show for Stokastic at 5:30 Eastern as well. You want to check me out on that one, but let's get into it here. And as always, presented by Unabated too, $30 off. Link in the description. Check them out. Of course, their prop betting tools I will show you guys in a moment, and the conditional projections for them are already out as well. We got Milwaukee, 119.3 implied points of this one. Decent projections for Giannis, for Damian Lillard. Price tag's a little bit tough on DraftKings. As a result, you're only getting 25% ownership for Giannis right now. 12%. It's 13% rounded up for Damian Lillard. Bobby Portis, not as good of a play this year. His rates have been a little bit lower overall to start the season, but he's still a fine enough play. Basically a 1 fantasy point per minute guy. Brooke Lopez, decent value on him as well. Gary Trent. These guys were all okay enough tournament plays for a 4-game slate, but none of them terribly highly owned. All of them around 15 to 25%. What you're getting on Milwaukee today. Shouts to the chatter guy. Steven always shows up in time. I appreciate that. Of course, brand new channel here, and hopefully I'm not muted on this video, so we're doing great to start things off. Got Memphis on their side. So Desmond Bane out for this one. As a result, more usage to go around, more assists to go around, more opportunity to go around for a lot of these guys. The injury report, I believe, is still not out. Wasn't out as of the last one because the Grizzlies are on a back-to-back. All right, so we got some other updates besides these. We got Bane, Gigi Jackson, we knew that. Kennard out. Conchar still questionable. Marcus Smart also out. Forgot to mention that. Ja Morant expected to go. Jaren Jackson could not play, but he's not on the injury report, so the expectation is he will go. But here we go. Shout out Eddie here, dishing out the goods on NBA. Appreciate being here, Eddie. All right, so Memphis on their side. The player that I think stands out the most for me, Scottie Pippen. He's been really good on the year. I'm projected for 31.4. So Castleman's projected for 26.6. So I'm a little bit higher on him. The thing with Pippen, though, is this year he's assisting at a 42% clip. And that does include some court time without Ja Morant. But obviously Bane being out kind of opens up the backfield enough for Pippen to get there. Pippen was a guy that I definitely played a lot last year, especially in games without Ja. This situation now with Pippen, getting some regular backcourt minutes today, projected for 28.6 minutes. Scottie Pippen to me looks like a pretty solid play, even with that $5,800 price tag. Does add some steal, some stock value as well for himself. But really the assist upside, he's possessing the ball enough. And the usage can get a little bit higher. Last year flirted with mid-20s. So hopefully Scottie Pippen can get it going a little bit more. But he'll be one of the players I definitely put into the single entry I'll be doing today. Santi Aldama, he's a player that if Ja Morant were ruled out, surprisingly, Jaren Jackson as well, he just seems to soak up the usage and the opportunity left behind by some of the main guys not being in. But Aldama, 5x value right now, 30.3 minutes. He looks like a decent enough play at 11% ownership. For the most part, though, these guys are all going to be unowned. You got under 5% ownership for Morant, for Jackson, for Pippen. The issue to me is that Morant's priced a little bit too highly. He's definitely getting a lot of usage, a lot of assist rate, 33% usage, 46% assist rate to start the season so far. So he's dominating the ball, but seemingly the upside not quite there as much because of the other guys you have in there taking possessions away, like Jackson, like Pippen, even like Aldama. A lot of these guys are taking a little bit away from Ja to make him look less like a good play. So compared to some of the guys we talked about in yesterday's slate, where you had your Trae Youngs, you had your LaMelos, you had your Tyrese Maxeys, guys, there's nobody else on the wing out there really taking opportunity away. For Ja Morant, you are going to have a lot of guys who are taking opportunity away, even without Bane in this lineup. Besides that, Brandon Clark not playable. Edey not really playable on paper. Nothing else here that seems that interesting besides Contra, who apparently people get as a value. He doesn't project that well for me. He doesn't project that well for Stokastic. I probably wouldn't play him on this slate, but if you get him, you get him. Next game, we got Houston and Dallas. Houston won 10 implied points. Dallas won 16.5. Slight pace up here, and I did adjust my pace stats a little bit to try to weight this season a bit more because some teams are massive outliers early. Chicago's one in particular. So I'm trying to make my projections reflect that a little bit more. So I did maneuver that around slightly here. Didn't really change any guys around too much, though. But the pace here, it's both teams, I would say on the slower side, but still technically a pace up for Houston by the barest of margins. Şengün, under 5x value for him. I would say he's always a tournament play, has lost some closing minutes to Jabari Smith lately. That also happened last year where basically just a different team was Şengün when he was out at the end of last season when Jabari Smith is playing kind of a small ball 5. So for Şengün in the spot, he doesn't project terribly well. He always has that kind of tournament slate-breaking upside. Against Dallas, could get played off the court a little bit more, though it's not like it's a playoff situation where he absolutely get played off the court. Here, certainly going to attack him a little bit, but I would say for Şengün, I think a decent enough play at a 2% owned, the kind of guy that could break a slate in a big way. Jalen Green would be a pivot to Fred VanVleet, is going to be very chalky. You can see Jalen Green, 5% ownership compared to 31%. Jalen Green, so far to start the season, really using the ball a lot or taking the ball, dominating possessions a lot. 31% usage for him compared to 17% for VanVleet. VanVleet only a 25% assist rate as well, so he really hasn't been dominating the ball as much as he has historically. And VanVleet's projections today industry-wide, including my own where I didn't tweak things, they are going to favor VanVleet based on some of the historical stuff. So VanVleet, I've got a 37.2. Stokastic has a 36.7 DK points. I think that's one thing where if you wanted to move away from VanVleet, he's going to come up a lot in optimizers, a lot in sims today, and he might not currently be the same play because of, again, how many guys they have coming into this rotation that takes some usage away, takes some opportunity away, and all that. Jabari Smith, not a bad salary on him at 5,900, but the projection not quite there. 4.8x value for me. I do have a projected a little bit higher than Stokastic as well. He's 3% owned. If somehow we were to get a bunch of stocks, maybe some points, just knowing the fact that you need to put up extra points against Dallas with their backcourt, I guess that'd be a possibility for him to hit. But for me with Jabari Smith, not a player I'd prioritize, not a player I was getting much of in the sim before the show either. Everybody else here, kind of nothing. Dylan Brooks gets enough minutes at 33 that I guess if you want to play him in a tournament, 11% ownership, you could, but he's not shooting. He's not assisting. He's also shooting poorly on the year. So really not a lot to love here, but Fred VanVleet is going to be the chalk. And I do think if you wanted to, consider how it's going so far and say, make a judgment call on that and think that he's not the same going to be the same Fred VanVleet this year, I don't think it'd be a crazy thing to do. But for right now, VanVleet does look very chalky and the price tag's probably a little bit too low. For Dallas, 116.5 implied points for them. Luka, the best projected player overall here, but still I'm lower on him than Stokastic pretty much always. I always have Luka about like 4 to 5 points less. I'm not really sure why that would be. I guess other guys may be picking up a few stats that Luka theoretically gets in Stokastic's projection. Either way, though, close enough to playable in mine. He's 20% owned, though, so I don't really see Luka being a player I'm going my way to get on this one. That said, competitive game against Houston, likely one where Dallas, you see Luka get all of his stints and hopefully see him play down to the wire as well. I think that you can make the tournament case for Luka, but projection-wise, salary-wise, I'm not there quite as much. Assist rate's been down for him to start the year as well, but that could just be guys missing shots. I'm not really sure. He's also shooting poorly himself, 48% true shooting, to start the year for Luka. Not a great number, so that should creep up a little bit, and as that does get better, he'll start to perform better fantasy-wise. Obviously, easier to get buckets when you're shooting better. Kyrie Irving going to be chalk, 47% ownership for him, so 5.2x value according to my metrics, and I'm lower on him than Stokastic. So Stokastic projection is going to drive a lot of that Kyrie Irving ownership today. Kyrie, really no issue with him. The price tag is tough, and the hand build that I did before the show, which I did run through the sim, I did not go Kyrie's way, so I'm pretty comfortable moving without him. That said, I did go VanVleet's way. So I think if you're not going to go VanVleet, going Kyrie a little bit more logical. I would say Kyrie compared to VanVleet, a little bit better floor, a little bit better ceiling. So for Kyrie, I think that he's a logical place to go to today. I don't know if I want to go to him, though, with 47% ownership. Klay Thompson, usage has been okay for him, 19%. He kind of still looks like the same guy, but a little bit more efficient than he was in Golden State. Shooting well to start the year, 0.92 fantasy points per minute, combining the sample size of last season and this season. Today I'd have him at 0.87, so not crazy about Klay Thompson, but another guy on a short slate, tournament play. I think he's fine enough at 5,700. Derek Lively, I don't really need to get there, but 14% ownership for him, a little bit under that 5x value, but not really close enough. I'd want to get to there meaningfully. PJ Washington comes up a lot. So I've got him projected lower than Stokastic. His rates on the year, not the most impressive. 16.4% usage, 12% rebound rate, a 7.7% assist rate. Doesn't really matter. He's not shooting that well. Maybe he can get a little bit hot especially from deep, but help him out a lot. For PJ, though, he's a player that does work really well salary-wise. The 4,800 for him is just too cheap. So PJ Washington, 32 minutes, just about $4,800 salary. Those are the main things. Even though he's kind of, I feel like you play PJ Washington, he feels like PJ Tucker kind of on these slates. A little more stats, obviously. He does a little bit in every category, but really with him as a Mav, he's just the guy that doesn't do a whole lot. PJ's price seems broken. I presume we're saying PJ here. It's not the right price, but he also is like a pretty low upside guy. The issue is really like, yesterday, Bilal Coulibaly is one guy you could have made a case like the price is low for him, especially in a spot where Kuzma was out. But it's like that's a young guy with a ceiling that hasn't been hit yet. For Washington, you got everybody healthy for the most part for Dallas. I guess not Kleber, but what minutes was he going to get anyway? You're just not really getting a whole lot with Washington in terms of upside, what the role has been. And you still have Luka and Kyrie out there, obviously, and Clay is taking even more possessions away. So I would say for Washington, I certainly get the projection part of it, but I think for a tournament, like he's the kind of player that maybe you don't want to play as much in a tournament because of the fact that like probably doesn't have great upside. And like if he works and makes the lineup, you're competing against a ton of people. But chalk hit so hard yesterday. I don't really want to advocate against chalk, given the fact that like you guys are all going to go like, oh, but everything did hit yesterday. Like Nick Richards hit everything fucking 30%, put up 50 or 70 fantasy points. So tournament brain did not help out yesterday. I would still think it would today, but who knows? Daniel Gafford still a 5x value. Not really a pivot to PJ Washington. His minutes are on a different plane, but theoretically takes some production away if Gafford ran hot in rebounds and points. Washington has a harder time hitting his median projection, let alone an outlier day. So I could see going to Gafford on that, given that he projects well and is a little bit cheaper, but he is a center. I don't know if you want to give up the center spot, but Dallas, not the most appealing team to me besides Washington and Irving, and I didn't really want either in a lineup. So that's how I feel about that. For San Antonio, you're getting 110.3 implied points. Of course, Wemby in this spot. Utah, 111.3 implied points. Lowry marketed still questionable, and that's really a key one right now. If you don't get Lowry marketed, it opens up Kyle Filipowski. So I guess to fully give away what I did before the stream, I built my hand-built lineup here, just basically putting one in the million, not the million maker, but the 100K to first one, just so I know how I'm doing with my stuff, because I'm going to put everything else to the NFL today. And even that, I'm not doing my usual NFL because it's Halloween and I have to do live before lock for Stokastic for NFL today. Point being, though, I do think that we're just shitting on Davion for no reason. Yeah, he got there late. He didn't start well. But yeah, he didn't go crazy, but I had him closer to the projection than I think everybody else out there did. If he had hit those two out of 4 3-pointers, we would have been right at where I had him at. So I feel okay about it. My Trae Young projection, though, immaculate yesterday. Point being for Lowry Markkanen, if he's out, he's going to open up Kyle Filipowski. Kyle Filipowski been pretty productive so far, about 0.9 fantasy points per minute. If he were to go, well, if he's playing today in general, which he will be, I have about 0.97 fantasy points per minute. So if Markkanen goes out, it's going to get even better. But I think that it's not that you're shitting on him. It's that like, what? It's not relevant to the conversation. You know, you need to bring up my mild failures / it wasn't a failure, but you know, my takes. But that was one too where I think in that game in particular yesterday, watching it, like RJ Barrett start the game was just like, I'm taking every possession. And then Davion missed a couple threes. And then after that, he was just like hanging out. And then late in the game, he was like, oh, fuck, I get a double-double. And he started to go nuts. But he was assisting the ball pretty well. Like his pick and roll game he was running with Pirtle was actually pretty effective. So I think there's still hope for Davion, but his price, I shouldn't have been that excited about him unless he was like 3K and he was 5K. So that's the difference. Filipowski, though, he's also not 3K. $4,700, I think, is a pretty good price tag for him, though. So you're not getting a ton of value, but if Markkanen is out, I think Filipowski would start. And either way, he seems like he's getting some of the Taylor Hendricks minutes that are left behind from the catastrophic leg injury. So Filipowski is one guy I'll highlight here, and I do think he's a pivot point to PJ Washington if you want to try to keep that roster spot open in case Markkanen does miss. Anyway, back to San Antonio, though. Jeremy Sohan is the chalk here. Sohan's been gunning. Sohan's got a 26% usage rate to start the year, 15% rebound rate, 18% assist rate. He's touching the ball a lot. 1.1 fantasy points per minute. His expected fantasy points when you roll in last year's rates get him a little bit lower. But if you were to roll off of this year's rates, he would be like an unavoidable chalk play. As is, he's already a very chalky play. So Sohan, I think good chalk, 59% owned. Hard to say that confidently on a 4-game slate. But I think that price tag's a little bit low for him for 33.6 minutes. And again, the fact that he's like really dominating the ball in a way that you would not expect Jeremy Sohan to be playing. Chris Paul, not dominating the ball, kind of the exact opposite, getting his assists, shooting well, but he's letting everybody else shoot around him, only a 16% usage rate. Given the fact he'll be facing, Colin Sexton, Keontae George, Jordan Clarkson all game in terms of defense, maybe Chris Paul starts shooting a little bit more today. If you were to play him, and that would be the case, you got 8% ownership for him, but the price tag's a little bit tough. You're definitely low on the metric over here. But I would say, honestly, like at this price point, I don't mind Chris Paul as a play. It's just he really has been deliberately not shooting. You kind of have to hope for that to flip. But he would be direct leverage on Sohan. If he takes more shots away, those probably come off of Sohan's played a little bit. Same thing for Wemby, same thing for Keldon Johnson. So if you're thinking about the Sohan fade, I would try to just move those possessions basically somewhere else. And Sohan could still get there through peripherals. So like his ceiling comes if he gets all the shots and adds peripherals. If he just has the peripherals, he probably gets close to the median projection. So if you're going to try to, fade him for a tournament, I think trying to capture somebody else in this rotation, just taking some shots away. Barnes honestly could 29 minutes a game for him. Somebody taking points away from Sohan's away for him to not make the winning lineups. Wemby, I think, is an okay play, 16% owned. Again, the usage down for him, assist rate down for him. I don't love how they're deploying him so far. It's odd for me to see Sohan getting this much work, but Sohan's relatively effective in terms of counting stats, at least. Wemby, I don't know if this is the right fit for him to have his fantasy upside where it needs to be, especially on DraftKings where, you're just getting a little bit less mileage than you would on FanDuel for the blocks in particular and, theoretically steals. So I don't mind Wemby today, but 16% ownership, not a priority for me. I think there are other ways for me to spend that money on this slate. Utah side, we talked about it. Markkanen is really the big one. If Markkanen's out, everybody becomes a better play. Sexton's minutes have been weird. They don't want to see him to play him the most at guard. Clarkson's getting a lot of run as well. He's not playing off the bench anymore, so that's probably a part of that. But Sexton, I think right now, mispriced, would have a hard time playing him. He's only going to be 4.3% owned. Markkanen, a good play if he's into, by the way, because he probably won't be owned as much as he would be otherwise because of that Q tag. So if we don't know he's playing by the time the slate locks at 8 p.m. Eastern today, I would say playing Markkanen more would be logical, but I would try to keep some flexibility because the Markkanen being in or out thing is like legit. It would open up Filipowski, would open up Bryce Sensabaugh maybe a little bit, though I don't know that really matters too much. But Filipowski's the one I'd really watch for because I think he's a good producer. I think he's going to be a better producer as we go on. Besides that, all these guys are playable for the most part. George is playable. Kessler's playable. George, I think, due for some positive regression, shooting terribly to start the year. 37.5% true shooting. Tried to have him the other day, and he did get up shots, but just didn't play that well. But Keontae George, point guard only, makes him a little bit tough. But I do think he's an okay play as well. Frankly, he and Chris Paul, I think, not bad plays together in this game, but it'd be hard to play in both of them, both being only point guards. Kessler, always in play against any team, really. This price point at 5,700 looks pretty good for him. 28 minutes a game, 15% ownership doesn't look that bad. Do think that there's a player in the late game who matters a lot more at center. But if you were not to play that guy, I think playing Kessler would be an okay move. Collins, not for me, 4.1% value or 4.1x value, not looking good. Clarkson, I do think I will play in my single entry tonight. I like his usage, like the price tag at 5,200. A shooting guard only doesn't help, but shooting guards, I think you need more than point guards in the slate. So Clarkson, I like pretty good. Usage is good for him. Assist rate's good. Due to shoot better. I think the Jazz as a whole are shooting like 39% on the year. So due for positive regression in terms of their shooting just to be at like league average. Where are they at? Yeah, 38.5% on the year. For comparison's sake, the Spurs are defending pretty well, and they're still giving up 42.4% shooting. So something's going to get hot here from the Jazz at some point. Markkanen would be my best bet, but I still think Clarkson can get going. George can get going with the usage. It's basically that. Cody Williams played 30 last game. Not looked at rotations. Why? Because he started, and I think that was basically it. He's not a high usage guy. He doesn't do a whole lot. I mean, you're looking at the usage here, 10%, 6% rebound rate, 7% assist rate. Cody Williams probably not really a play. He's got 0.5 fantasy points per minute on the year, and generously I'm giving him 0.6 today. So starters minutes, not always really valuable, but I don't think he was owned last game. I think he was just like a late announcement as a starter that came in. So I don't think it's like you're buying while there's blood in the streets of them either, but you could play Cody Williams because he did start and bomb out in his first start. He's not really shooting at all either. I was going to look up his other numbers. Yeah, I don't think Cody Williams would be a play. Phoenix 112.8. Clippers 108.3. So some of the most important players to me on the slate today are in this game. James Harden's on the thumbnail. Actually made it before I pulled my numbers. So Harden's numbers right now are really interesting. If you gave him these rates that he has so far this year, 34% usage, 47.6% assist rate, you give him these rates today and don't, kind of throw out the historical ones, even throw out the ones that have, court time without Paul George, without Kawhi Leonard, which is what I gave James Harden to try to get him close to where he should be. He would project for over 60 fantasy points if you just gave him the rates that he has so far in the year relative to his Vegas total. And basically kind of explain how that works, at least for my projection system. You have the Vegas total, right? So that means, between these two teams, you expect X amount of possessions based off that Vegas total. It's like kind of one of those calculus equations you would do back in, I would say grade school, maybe high school, depends where you were with it. But basically you kind of work that backwards. So if we're projected for 108.3 points, how many possessions does it take for these guys to put up those 108.3 points? And then you figure it out from there. So you have this many possessions, then these guys should put up this many stats because that's how many stats occur during that many possessions. So for Harden, like you have this last year of games where he's playing with Kawhi, he's playing with Paul George. Even if you pulled the last few years, he's playing with all the Nets guys. When all those guys have been out, he's played like a different player. Now he's back to playing like this different player who just dominates the ball. Maybe not the most visually appealing style of basketball, but the usage supports him being old Harden. Old Harden used to be priced at 11K, 12K. Did he ever get over 12? I feel like he might have. Westbrook definitely did. But those guys were very similar counterparts in terms of dominating the ball. It's what Harden's doing now too. So entirely possible that Phoenix just boat races him. Bradley Beal, questionable, but likely going to go. Like Phoenix has a lot more talent right now than the Clippers do, but it's a 3.5 point spread, at home for the Clippers. For what it matters, that little fan wall in the Clippers' new stadium seems like it's throwing off guys a little bit. So I like Harden a lot tonight. I think Harden should be a player you get to in as many lineups as possible. 40% ownership too light to me. With how he's playing to start the year, he is back to old Harden. And I projected today, and this is like the lighter version of my projection, 1.5 fantasy points per minute, which would put him, I think, not too far from Giannis. I mean, Giannis is 1.7, but like relative to the price points, like Harden is a smash play to me. So think Harden for your DFS slates, the guy you want to go to first and foremost. I think it's important to hit that up top because he is like the key part of it. Similarly, Zubac is going to be as chalky as shit, 61% owned. I do like Zubac as well. His numbers look really good. He's also been good historically rate-wise in court time without Paul George, without Kawhi Leonard. Picks up a little more usage, a little more assist upside as well. And this year, these rates for the year, 22% usage, 21% rebound rate, 16% assist rate. He's touching the ball. He's involved. So Zubac as well against Phoenix, I think pretty good. Maybe a little bit of tough sledding against Nurkic sometimes, but Nurkic is only going to play 21 minutes based on the projection we have here. Besides that, Powell's been gunning. Powell's got a 27% usage rate on the year. Basically the number two, I would say number two gunner, really. I wouldn't say scorer. But this guy's getting up shots number two most behind James Harden. He's also going to be 31% owned. These guys, to me, part of the core. I just don't think the prices are correct for the Clippers right now with not having Kawhi in, not having Westbrook anymore. Kevin Porter coming in is not taking as much usage and opportunity or minutes as I would have thought he could get. Everybody else here is just kind of guys that stand around. And Terrence Mann has like developed into like a nothing player on the wing. He's not even touching the ball. 12% usage, 12% assist rate. That can also flip back around if you wanted to go and like fade these guys and then go into Terrence Mann and trying to get him right. But his minutes have been down a little bit, only 21-minute projection. I think it's a smash spot for these Clippers here. So back-to-back for them, maybe a little worry there, though they didn't play like a ton of minutes yesterday. I think for the Clippers, I like them a lot, but they're like a make-or-break spot on the slate in terms of all the chalk. Derek Jones Jr. will not make lineups as much for me. I've got him at a 20.8 projection. So Casca has him at 23. I think he looks okay at a $4,400 salary, but not my priority. And besides that, I think there's not a whole lot in Clippers. Chris Dunn, Cuss playable, nothing else really. Phoenix aside, so these guys all look okay with Beal's in, though. They're kind of capped in terms of their upside. Durant getting a lot of minutes projection, 36.3, Booker 35.2, Beal 34.9. All these are around their averages too. One thing around the NBA this year, guys playing more minutes per game across the board. Like I was surprised to see yesterday when I was doing the deeper dive with Josh Engelman, Tyrese Maxey was projected for 40 minutes. I'm like, what? And I was like, oh, he's actually averaging like 42 a game. That didn't include an overtime. The minutes are up across the board. I don't know why, given the NBA's injury concerns. Maybe this is a pushback against that. Either way, though, Durant playing a lot of minutes, 11% ownership. Beal, a lot of minutes, 11.5% ownership. Booker, let's say Beal's elbow flares up again. He leaves the game. Booker's going to look like a brand new, infinitely better play. He's got 5.6% ownership. So these guys not currently projection plays, but certainly have tournament upside, especially if Beal were to somehow get ruled out, but it's not going to happen because he went through shoot around. Tyus Jones, 15% ownership. Hard for me to get there. He's assisting well, but there's just no really shots to go around for him at this point with the three guys there and Durant, Booker, and Beal taking everything away. And Nurkic too, still a 28% usage rate for him. He's just not on the court quite as much this year. All right, so that's everything for now on this stuff. Let's go to Unabated because Unabated's data came out at 4 p.m. So some lines may have moved around a little bit since then. Let me refresh it too over here. Guys, if you appreciate this content, please do subscribe down below. Hit the like button. Again, I do these videos every day at 4 p.m. Tomorrow's going to be an exception, though. I'm going to do it at 4:30, I think, maybe a little bit earlier, because of the fact I want to go see my kids' little Halloween parade at school, which is fucking nothing. It's just kids. It's just kids walking around a parking lot in their costumes, but I got to do it, so got to support the boy. So 4:30 tomorrow will be the one thing. Keep that in mind. What's Sohan's hair color right now? I think, is it like pinkish blonde, like a pink lemonade kind of look, I think is where we're at, but I could be wrong about that. Let's go to the unabated NBA projections, of course, made by Justin, fan of the team over there. And you know what? Before we get into it, I think you guys know what we have to do. Let me introduce you guys to the world of Unabated's NBA projections with a video I'll very thoughtfully narrate. Projections. You like the best projections? Here's a lot of them. You can't even handle any projections around this goddamn screen right now. Are your eyes bloody? Are you bleeding from your ears hearing me shout about projections? Well, good news, they're conditional. You can change them around. If one guy's going to be out, he's going to be in. Let's see how it looks. Want some news? Get some news too. You don't have to rely on the liberal media. You get your news from Unabated. All the best anchors. You like graphs? I know you love graphs. You want to see that big old graph rising, don't you? Oh, that graph is full. Look how turgid that graph is. Get it? An Unabated community. Oh, you want community? They got community coming out the wazoo. They got expert game day live streams at 4 p.m. Not today, though. Then you can chat to them. You can talk dirty if you want. Count your money. This is what we do at Unabated. Unabated NBA. Check it out. Promo code SPLASH gets you $30 off. I'm sure they love that read. When they find out about that one, boy, oh boy. All right. Let's look at the points projections for today with Unabated's NBA projections. Of course, team of 3 folks there working on that. At least I think it's definitely at least 3. But they're really the most proprietary data source made for bettors, made for Unabated's like whale customers as well. So it's one of the better data things that you'll find out there. And obviously, you know, you can export these as well if you wanted to use them in lieu of Stokastic projections or whatever else out there. You want to say fuck roto grinders for firing everybody, and I think you should say that. Use Unabated's projections. You'll get unique in DFS tournaments as well if you are in that level of knowledge. But we just simmed it out basically, which is part of the Unabated process as well and package. Link in the description if you want to check it out. We got 11% EV, basically 10.7% EV on under 30.5 points for Giannis. You get that right now at minus 105 odds on DraftKings. Right, we got EV on both sides of Damian Lillard, but not enough to hit our qualifying mark. Generally want at least 2% on any sort of EV calculation. For sim EVs, you might even go as high as 8%. But it's one to keep in mind. And that Lillard line, okay, Lillard line just moved. Luka Doncic, under 30.5 points. He's got projected 29.3 by Unabated. You're getting 12.5% value. You take under 30.5 points for Luka today at minus 105 odds. Damian Lillard, 26.1 points is the projection. Under 26.5 at minus 110 odds. You got 4.5% EVs. So in that range where you could take that as a good bet today if you're playing on DraftKings Sportsbook. Not a lot pick'em wise, it looks like here. Oh, we're moving. Pick'em wise, you could do the over on 19.5 points for Jaren Jackson. Unabated's got him at 21.4 points, 8.1% value on that. I think the Luka under would be good for pick'ems as well. Under 30.5 is the line on PrizePicks and Underdog. So try to go through and point out both the sportsbook side and the pick'em side for you guys as we go. Klay Thompson, we got 5% EV on over 13.5 points, minus 125 odds. You don't need that with a sim, but you could do it. And you can see in real time, by the way, guys, the lines are moving. So when things are stale, they go away. It's part of why I try to hit this early in the video, because all the Unabated customers file in and they make their moves. Let's go to rebounds. Sim out some sweet rebounds here. All right, here we got some pick'ems on here. We got first the DK Sportsbook one, plus 105 odds on Daniel Gafford, over 6.5 rebounds. Unabated's got him projected for 7.2 rebounds. You get 13.4% value. Expected value, of course, the calculation basically the win rate times the win amount minus the loss rate times the loss amount. That's how I calculate the expected value of anything. Also, Unabated would calculate it relative to their simulated projections. So 16.7% value on Daniel Gafford, over 6.5 rebounds right now. PJ Washington, under 6.5 rebounds. Oh, never mind. That's highlighted, but it's not the one. Over 6 rebounds on PrizePicks. So if you're to play PJ Washington over 6 rebounds on PrizePicks, you're getting good value. He's projected for 6.9 rebounds by Unabated's projection team. That gives you a 12.6% value for to take over 6 as part of your PrizePicks card. Your PrizePicks card is right here, by the way. These 3 bets should all be added. Şengün, 10.7 rebounds, the projection. You're getting value on over 9.5 rebounds on DraftKings Sportsbook, minus 115 odds with a 10.9, well, let's just say an 11% EV on that. If you take over 9.5 on PrizePicks, you're getting a little bit less EV, but still 9.7% EV on Şengün, over 9.5 rebounds or higher, I guess, depending on the platform. Jalen Green projected for 4.7 rebounds. You're getting 10.6% value on under 5 rebounds on PrizePicks. So take that, better than the sportsbooks, though you could pick the under on the sportsbooks, it looks like as well. Jabari Smith, under 7.5 rebounds, 8.6% value, minus 135 odds at DK Sportsbook. Honestly, good amount of rebound bets today. Let's look at assists. How could I not look at assists? Sohan, white hair is best for fantasy points. Racist is what that is. Yeah, spurious news. More like scurrilous news. Yeah, I think that works. Fred VanVleet, PrizePicks. Play it right now. Under 7 assists. He's projected for 6.5. There's 13.4% value. You take that under 7 on PrizePicks. It's still decent value on DraftKings, but not quite as much. I assume it's under 6.5 on that. For Alperen Şengün, 9.3% value, under 3.5 assists on DraftKings, plus 124 odds. Whenever you see a plus EV, plus money bet, you should always take that. So you see the positive EV here, the green. You see the plus money here. It's a plus 124 bet. Again, basically, you're not paying vig in a bet that's plus money or theoretically plus EV. You should do that. So that's just something to keep in mind for anything in betting when you trust the product. Same thing for Odds Shoppers thing. I probably shouldn't mention competitors, but like Unabated, Sewell, Odds Shopper, Sewell, Odds Jam stuff. You see the combo, plus EV bet, plus money bet. Just take it. Klay Thompson, though, under 1.5 assists, 5.5% EV on that, and take it out PrizePicks as part of that PrizePicks card we've been theoretically building this whole time. And PRA is last but not least on this short slate. We won't look at anything conditional here because, we look at marketing maybe. I don't know if we have Jazz lines, though, for all those guys. We didn't before. Derek Lively PRAs, plus 13.4% value on over 17.5 PRAs on PrizePicks. You're getting 9.3% EV on under 33 PRAs for Alperen Şengün on PrizePicks as well. You're getting a lot of value for PrizePicks. Again, I really feel like we're building quality depth at PrizePicks cards every day on here with these bets. Jalen Green, you're getting 7.8% EV on under 32 PRAs at PrizePicks as well. For Fred VanVleet, 6.1% EV on under 27.5 PRAs. Again, also at PrizePicks. Stop if you heard this one. It's at PrizePicks. We got Jabari Smith, PRAs under 20.5, 5.5% EV if you take it at part of an underdog. So a lower 20.5. Change that to an L when it says underdog. And yeah, promo code splash and underdog, right? We can click that real fast. Oh, yeah, check that out. Check out that sticker. All right. Kyrie Irving, this one getting close to unplayable relative to a sim, but 3.4% EV on under 33.5 PRAs on PrizePicks today. So that's that. Let's look at the Stokastic sims next here. And of course, we'll call it quits for the day. Can't do longer than 45 minutes for one of these. I believe it's 35% to first for today on Stokastic. So let's see what we get. 5,000 lineups here. And we'll have them compete 10,000 times coming up next. So again, these videos going on every single day at 4 p.m., guys, except for tomorrow. Tomorrow, 4:30, but you'll know. You subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, you'll know. But basically, besides tomorrow, every day at 4 p.m., I'm committed Monday to Friday. So contractually, Unabated said, you got to be here. You got to sit your ass in that chair until it's welded to your little studio couch. So that's what we're going to do here every Monday to Friday at 4 p.m. That's the promise. And today, 5:30, coming up on the Deeper Dive on Stokastic's YouTube channel. 7:30, NFL Showdown live before lock. Jets, Texans for me coming up. So my content day is just beginning. When will I open a beer? People are wondering. Hopefully soon. Hopefully soon. All right. Simming out. Of course, using Stokastic's projections, not mine today. So keep that in mind here. I try to highlight the difference between the two when I show you mine, but I don't want to mislead the sim stuff. The sim stuff, let's trust the real adult data source. Here, low on play right now. In the lineup I built, I don't think I have anybody terribly low owned. Relative to the ownership, I mean, I think Harden should be. I've got Harden 85% of my sim. He's owned 40% of the time. It would be that. I got Zubac 91% of the time in my sim. He's owned 60%. So he's another one. It's really the Clippers' big three, I guess, would be it. I don't think Josh tried to scold me. It was more about Davion Mitchell specifically, about not weighting Stokastic over my own projections. But I like, look, to be honest, I didn't even weight Stokastic when I ran the sim yesterday because it depends on the day. When I feel like there's an edge in my projections, I do that. Hey, and that's what we do. It's just Josh. We know each other for so long. He can bust my balls as much as he wants. But with projections, though, like the thing is, it's up to you how you want to play things. Like for me, I'm always going to play aggressively because at this point, I'm not maxing out tournaments right now. I'm just putting in a few entries into ones that I think are good or max got a 20 max, but like that's just a fucking lottery anyway. So to me, I'd rather go die on the hill of like the thing that I know everything I've got into it. Whereas Stokastic, like, you're still competing against people that are using the exact same data sources you. So if you don't want to build your own projections, please like use Stokastic. It's much better. Even somebody like me, like I should absolutely use Stokastic to balance out my projections, but I want to let my projections do what they do because like that's what won me money before. So like I don't know. It's a push pull for sure, but Stokastic I still use for minutes as my baseline anyway. So they're in the mix for me no matter what. Luka Doncic, Jordan Clarkson, Norman Powell, PJ Washington, Brook Lopez, Tyus Jones, Jeremy Sohan, Ivica Zubac, your number one projected or number one ROI lineup right now, according to Stokastic Sim products. You can see that on the screen right now up here. Number 2 ROI lineup, Tyus Jones, Jalen Green, Taurean Prince, Giannis, Walker Kessler, Jordan Clarkson, PJ Washington, Ivica Zubac. I would say if I'm wrong about Harden, the way to sort of get away from that, and frankly too, Luka, Giannis doesn't seem like he's owned enough either. I mean, Giannis projected for 25% ownership. Competitive game, I would think, against Memphis. Yes, I mean, it's a 6.5 point spread favoring Milwaukee on the road. That feels like it goes into the fourth quarter. You still have Ja going. You still have enough guys going to Memphis. So I think if you're going to talk about maybe low owned, there's really not anybody who's good and low owned in a 4-game slate for the most part. I think that Giannis would be the player here where I would want to get him as much as possible to try to get leverage on the other guys. John Morant, Jordan Clarkson, Dylan Brooks, PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford, Luka Doncic, Derek Jones, and Ivica Zubac, your number 3 ROI lineup. Luka again, Clay. So Luka's coming up in almost all his top 3. 4 of the top 5 is what he's also in. Luka, Klay Thompson, Derek Jones, PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford, Fred VanVleet, Jeremy Sohan, Ivica Zubac, and Luka Doncic, Jordan Clarkson, Amir Coffey, PJ Washington, Walker Kessler, James Harden, Derek Jones, Ivica Zubac. So you're getting less Harden than you would get with my projections. You're getting more Luka for sure. John Morant coming in here is a bit of a surprise because he doesn't project well for Stokastic either, but you're getting Luka in that lineup as well and paying down elsewhere. I don't know. I don't love those top teams, to be honest, but Stokastic people keep winning these tournaments, so follow it for a reason. Top ROI players, according to Stokastic, are nobody really, but Derek Jones, a negative 0% would technically be your highest ROI. Again, it's a 4-game slate. So like, for Eddie's asking about the lower owned guys and like stuff like this, it's just so much flatter for a 4-game slate. And like the guys who are really low owned are guys you kind of have to squint your eyes to play. Actually, Scottie Pippen would be one. He's projected for under 10% ownership. I do like him. Besides that though, like most of the plays that are good are going to be well owned. So it's up to you to figure out how to make those combos unique. For me, it's just playing more Harden and more Clippers, to be honest, even though they're not unique based on the ownership. PJ Washington, your highest exposed player right now, 75% PJ Washington compared to 35% in the pool. And one thing to keep in mind when you see these chalk plays, like the sim is still based off of like the baseline assumption, which is including the median projection. So if you gave PJ Washington like a 2-point projection, he wouldn't come up 75% of the time. But because he has this decent enough projection, he comes up a lot. So if you want to move away from PJ Washington, you could very easily do that. But the sim is obviously saying like a guy at this salary who does as well, just a middling game for PJ Washington helps you unlock all this other stuff. So it's kind of the main way to keep that in mind. Ivica Zubac at center, another top player here, 75% exposure compared to 60%. So I mentioned I'm very over on Zubac with my projections. The Stokastic sim also wants you to get very over on it. Sohan, 67% compared to 59%. So a little bit above the field on him, but still supporting the usage there. A lot more Derek Jones, 50% compared to 23%, which surprises me. I'm not a big Derek Jones guy on the slate, but he's had upside before. I mean, I don't love it. A lot of usage to go around theoretically on the Clippers, but he doesn't ever pick it up really. Luka Doncic, you're getting him a lot more than the sim, 47% compared to 19. Clarkson, 39% compared to 33. You're under on Kyrie, 34 compared to 46. Higher on Taurean Prince, 31 compared to 22. Fred VanVleet, flat with the field. Higher on Klay Thompson, 2x for Klay Thompson. All right. These are lineups, guys. My main thing on this slate is really, I think it's James Harden or bust. I think he goes for 60 again, 60 fantasy points today. That's just really the main thing that I think my projections and why I like to go with mine more is because of the fact that like I identify things that are outliers sometimes more easily. Like I had Trae Young projected by the end of the start time of the slate yesterday because Hunter was also out. I got him up to 60 fantasy points. That was not really tweaking stuff. He obviously ended up going for almost 70. I feel like for Harden tonight, I would have him based on his rates so far the year. I'd have him in the low 60s. So I think Harden's your must play. It's really the biggest thing I give you guys. Like, you want to die on the hill, I'm going to die on tonight. It's James Harden. So that's it for today, guys. Tomorrow, again, special time at 4:30. Besides that, Monday to Friday at 4 p.m. here. Appreciate all you guys who are watching. I didn't put out a tweet today. I just wanted to see how we do without that. So please hit that like button. Please subscribe. Your support goes a long way as we're trying to get to our first 100 subs on this brand new channel. And of course, it's going to be a long walk to do that, but I'm going to keep showing up every day and doing the work, and the hope is that you'll come along with it. So please watch every day, hit the notification bell, subscribe, leave a comment, like button, all do that. Unabated, $30 off right now. Link in the description, or go to unabated.com and use promo code SPLASH. Gets you $30 off all their package. You get all their prop data for about $50 a month. You get also all their data and tools for like $90 a month with all that. So it's a really good deal. Love Unabated stuff. Been really impressed seeing it. I fully recommend it. Stokastic, you guys know the deal by now. Love them as well. They do a great job for the DFS side of things. 15% off all the Stokastic data and tools. The link in the description, and all of that supports the show. Same thing for the promo code SPLASH and Underdog. Check the chats one more time. There we go. Listen to you about Trey was the only thing good on my team last night. Hey, I appreciate that. Today it's James Harden. I feel like we get one right a day. We've done a good job, but I do appreciate you guys hanging out. Hope you have a happy Halloween. So spooky. I'll see you guys again soon. Gamble responsibly, even it's always money time. And I'll be back tomorrow with more, guys. Hey, enjoy your days. And of course, happy Halloween and good luck. Bye-bye.